Thank you. Okay, so we had a request to make contact with Lawrence's higher self, true self, divine self today. Would this be permitted?
Of course.
Thank you. Can you maybe just tell him how it is that Natasha connects with his higher self specifically?
Her team is connecting directly with his team, which is opening up a channel through her heart that the sound can come out the mouth.
Yes. And how will he know that this is specifically true for him?
Because he will feel it instantly. It is that knowing, that intuition and the synchronicity.
Yes, very good. Okay, is there any visuals coming through, or should we get straight into the questions?
There are many questions today, so we will start with these.
Okay, so his first question was, are there any lessons he has planned to learn, and what are his greatest challenges? Are there many lessons, one or many lessons? So yeah, he was basically saying, is it trust, is it honesty? What exactly is his biggest lesson and his greatest challenge?
His biggest lesson is to just be, he's always learning, always absorbing, always interacting. The art is to stay in the flow, stay in, as we could say, the middle state, instead of moving to and from areas. And this is a thing that he is quite frequent in doing because of his abilities, because of the energy frequency that he brings onto this planet. It is the best to describe as he is a traveler, but he travels through things and shifts things, almost putting them into perspective, moving to and from currents of the electromagnetic frequencies. He resets frequencies and opens up pathways. The more that he just is, the more these frequencies just do these types of abilities. It is actually to master one's contentness, to just be, as one could say, still and allow the feeling. But this is the most difficult lesson of all.
Yes. What does that look like practically for him, just to be still? Like, how does he actually implement that in his life?
It is just to be, as we could say, still. He is moving out frequencies and different things. It is more to give a perspective of when one is thinking, one is opening up a frequency in this area. And then when one is doing, one is opening up another frequency. And he is now dividing himself amongst these different frequencies, where being still is sitting back with all of the frequency inside of the vessel and feeling when it opens and when it starts moving, and then he can catch and jump with them. It is more of saying that if one is riding in a river, instead of trying to fight the current and swimming to the sides, it is for one to just lie back and feel as where the motion of the frequency is going.
So could he do that in meditation and just feeling these currents that you speak of?
It is not to do it in meditation. It is that he needs to master doing this in the waking moment, in the now. It is everywhere where he is going. Instead of placing his attention and focus forward onto something, it is to place it on the inner and just allow it to pull him.
Mm. Well, that's kind of the definition of hypnosis, is to focus on the inside instead of focusing on the outside.
Yes, it is to say that it is similar, but it is to not be so deep that one doesn't lose contact with the outside surroundings. It is to say that there is a specific spot where one could shift and be in the outside and the inside at the same time.
Yes, and you were saying he's kind of like a traveler, right? Can you tell him more about that?
Yes, so what he does is he's traveling through multiple frequencies. The best that we could give is that this is his ability. This is why he is on this planet. There are different stream forms of these type of beings. What they do is they harness electromagnetic field. He is an electromagnetic field, but he is the traveling reset of these fields. It is to say that one could perceive this life as a video game with multiple outcomes, and depending on the player that is playing the game, and the thoughts that they stream and the frequency they connects to one of these outcomes, therefore creating this reality and the next step of the game for them. However, because there are certain sections that are planned and programmed, one fits into a category moving in and out. He is part of this group who come in for the reset to open up frequencies. It is easier to describe it in a polarity that this planet is so used to. Let us give it as a good and a bad, a negative and a positive. It is to say that if someone is living more in a negative mind space, they are only going to see negative outcomes. They have the right to this because they have chosen. This is what they ask for in their daily lives. But there's also a group who sees it as a positive, and they too have this permission to live in this positive reality. He has come in with a group who works with electromagnetic fields, which connect to the hearts. So it is almost to say that where he is and where he travels to physically, he helps open grids and reset them for the beings who want to connect to those realities. He comes to bring in a heart space frequency so that those who are in that area can connect to it, and the ones who do not and have a different experience connect to another one. He just ensures that these frequencies are set so that the people can start moving to and from.
What is this group called?
There is not a specific word for this group, but we would like to refer to them as the TEM, the transitional electromagnetic fields, because this is what they are doing. They are just creating these shifts in these fields to make sure that it stays open, because all is in right for their experience. And even those who are wanting the heart-based experience, they are there to set and make sure that there is that step for those to move to.
But having this ability or having this background, what does that help him with in his current, practical 3G life?
It makes him who he is. This is why he likes to move around. He has to. It is almost to say that this group that has come in, they all work in sync. When one moves, the other moves. So when he is traveling, the others are also traveling. They all cover a space and create this belt that moves around the planet to different countries, to different places, to different time lapses. They are always moving in sync. This is why there's always a call to travel or to move, and one cannot deny that one. And he does. He moves and he travels. He creates this space. He does do most of his traveling on the inner side as well, but he is learning to become more conscious with that ability. It is just that when one moves into that frequency, it is more difficult to remember. It is to kind of put it in the sense of this vessel is a machine, and his vessel is pushing out this electromagnetic field wherever it goes. But when he sleeps, this is almost, as we could say, a substation. In the substation, that is when the vessel gets the picturization from the dream realm. However, the soul has been moved out in the sense of not leaving the vessel but out of that space. And it's almost as if he comes and sits with us, and then we discuss what we're going to do in the next day, how we're going to move things, what is in his reality, where do we need a shift. And the next day when he wakes up, he has this call that he needs to travel to a certain place, or he has to be somewhere at a certain time. And that is how we keep shifting. There is always this constant communication.
Yes, he does actually travel for his work. So he's always on the move, and also, yes.
That is that. It is not that to say that per se the actual work that he's doing is his purpose. It is to travel. That is his purpose. His purpose is the traveling. Whether he's doing it for that type of work or doing it for something else, it does not matter. We just need him to travel because that is his purpose.
So just kind of explain again what happens when he does move across the globe. What does that do actually for, for other light workers or for the planet itself?
So it is to say that these grids are continuously moving and shifting. It is the best way that we can give it is this planet. This planet is an electromagnetic field planet. Everything stems on a frequency according to its electromagnetic field. There are multiples at different angles and shapes to create different realities, bounce different frequencies, move atoms together. This is what creates this planet to move. This is why that if there is interferences in certain things in the electromagnetic field, it causes stagnicity. And when there is stagnicity there, the energy cannot flow to its full potential, which means that the energy that is intended cannot be moved. The best to understand that is to think of it as a film. Think about a movie. When a movie takes place from scene to scene, if one had to think if this actor who is playing in the scene only had one chance in that moment to create that scene, and if they mess up the scene or they fall, then that becomes the scene. But they do move to the next scene and the next scene and the next scene, and therefore everything still plays out. This is happening, as we could say, in time. It is real time moving. And every time when he sleeps, we have to reset to move. And this is what we do with all the others as well. So where there is massive stagnicity or something happening that is delaying the light workers to achieve their goals or pull from the grids, then we send them to move around and open up that space again to create that flow. But they have to move like a chain. It is to say that one cannot be in a proximity of the other. These beings will never meet each other, even though they stem from exactly the same place and the same frequency base. It is almost to say that from this realm where this field takes place is their planet, is their home. But when they all get scattered into different sections, it is to say if this one is closest to this magnetic and this one is closest to the area that needs the healing, they will shift together to always cover the area and the space.
Yes.
That is why if one doesn't move, none of them move.
Yes. Okay. But you were saying that, the job he's doing specifically might not be the right one for him, but that was one of his questions. He wants to know more about his purpose, his gifts, the work he needs to do here. He wants to know how to make an advancement spiritually, emotionally, in order to feel joy and purpose.
He already made these advances. It is more this one that because one feels that one is not reaching full potential, that one tends to have this delusion of a frequency field, of that one is not achieving one's purpose. Just by existing and moving around, he has achieved his purpose. But the goal is for him to be more conscious when doing this. When he's consciously moving, and as we could say, to bring forth a term that you use, this hypnosis state, but the one of meeting in the middle, when he is moving around and he is connected in that frequency and mindset, he will start to feel the currents and move with them. And it is more that for him to think of himself as a master, and all of these frequencies of the electromagnetic field is all music, and he could start directing the flow, and he can see where the stagnicity is, and he can create the flow, almost tinkering and moving it around. That is the ability. Even though his frequency field does it on its own, it has to do it at a certain pattern and movement, because it still needs some form of right of way in the physical. But when he's physically conscious and he sees it and he actively does it, then he has this right to immediately start changing and moving it. So let us say where he could do it in a matter of hours, if he's not conscious to it in the moment, it will take a few days.
Okay, but so he doesn't actually need to physically move to these places. He could do it energetically as well from wherever he is. Is that what you're saying?
It is to say that he will have that ability to do that, but his physical vessel carries the field out. It is that he does this more when he is awake than when he is asleep, and all of them do that. He has to move physically, but the job that he is doing is, as we could say, not a terrible one, but we do know that he wants more, and he could pick any job that allows him to travel, and we would move the traveling to the same spots and the same things. It is just about what he is comfortable with, but he's always going to be physically moving from place to place. There is never going to be a time where he is not traveling, because this is what he needs to do.
Sounds like fun. But I suppose he said it just feels like work, So how should he be more intentional the next time he goes, on a business trip?
It is just to not think about the business or what he is doing for the business on the trip, but more to think about what is the purpose of me coming to this place, feeling the frequency in the area and saying, why am I here? And then to pay attention, maybe then looking around, he could see, oh, but there's a lot of sad faces in this area, which means that there's a lot of people who are not receiving the light, and I'm going to allow this current to move open. And by doing that and noticing of the surroundings, he will start to see the faces change. People are smiling. He is hearing more laughter. And then he's moving that stagnant frequency that was not supposed to be there, but however, due to by other things happening in the scene, one cannot always have it perfect. This is why we have sent them in. This is why we have sent in these types of beings, because there has to be a physical exchange as well. All things do take place energetically. However, when it transitions into a physical, it takes on a form of its own as well. These things are always, as we could say, not unpredictable, but things do not change circumstances, but they do not go according to plan. Whether we planned the day to be more vibrant and everybody to be more happy, a lot of people are more unhappy and they are missing their own synchronicities, which prevent them from their purposes. So this stems out more to he's creating this shell not for everyone, but for the light workers that need to keep moving in this area. It is a bigger job than what he thinks. One of him can take care of a whole area. It is quite vast, but when one is not that conscious, it's almost as if the vast area that one could work with is smaller. So let us say he goes from town to town. But once he starts unlocking it in the conscious mind and actually feeling it and being present in that day-to-day now moments, he controls a bigger vast area where he could start moving it over a whole country eventually. It is more just about that growth in oneself, but not in oneself in only on the inside, but the outside too. It is bringing the two worlds together in that same time, moving around. This is the best we could describe.
But he wanted to know, is he on the right track, and how did he do so far? How can he move forward, in the spiritual advancement?
He is waiting for this, to feel, to catch these synchronicities. It is to say that he is traveling, he is doing a purpose, but because he's not aware and feeling the purpose, he feels a lack of purpose.
Yes.
This is this. So it is just for the more he is aware into it, the more he's going to see. He's already doing it, but it's because he's not doing it at the conscious level that he should be doing it, which is causing the delay. So it is just more to bring himself present. It is more to feel it than to visualize it. It is the way of saying that it is more to feel the pulse of the frequency. It is to give him the picture of a speaker. If one puts a speaker and one puts water on top of a speaker and starts playing different frequencies, they start creating pictures or outlines and different frequency bases. They start painting a picture or creating a chain effect. There's multiple things that can happen at multiple frequencies, and he needs to feel, because when he is there, he shoots out that field and he could feel that in the air. It is actually something that is quite, as we could say, addictive, but this is not the word that we would like to use. But once he starts feeling it, he's going to be called and craving it the whole time.
Like infectious.
Yes, then he would never want to stop. And then he would see it is not about the physical things that he is doing. It is about, in that waking moment, what is the energetical things that he is doing.
But he was very interested in, spiritual stuff like QHHT. Should he rather be traveling and doing that kind of work?
He could be doing any work. This is what we say. The work is not of importance. It is more how he connects to himself. That is the spirituality. It is not to go out and seek something, but it is to go inward and seek what one is on the inside. That is that. All is the same, but all is exactly the same perspective playing out at multiple angles and frequencies. And this is what it is. It is almost to give you a picture of the planet. Think just of your planet. Every bacteria, every type of plant, every animal, every type of species, everything is stemming from its own plane, where the way that that plays out is how that plane works. So there's always different options of different things. And it, depending on where one is balanced in oneself, is where one is connecting to. It is to say that, think of the animals, think of the planets. The more higher vibrational animal, let us use like the whales. The whales are very high in frequency. They keep memory and keep stories and keep things that need to shift. But there is somewhere a dimensional plane and a planet where they are the main beings. But because they cannot come always to this planet, they can travel through those animals. And when those animals are moving, they can interact with the humans. The same as with the cats. Through cats, the cat beings can jump. And this is same with every animal, every type of plant. It is to think of more as the highest dimension that can stream in on the planet comes through the plants, comes through nature, because that is of the earth, that is of the birth of this planet.
How is that related to him?
Because he is setting the fields to allow these things to happen. And it is just for him to understand this. The more that he understands this, the more he will seek that spirituality on the inside to see exactly how he fits. That is the only thing that he is craving. He is craving for that connection into always knowing and always having this channel of trust flowing through him. And that is it, to just connect his frequency to that. The more he starts paying attention to those different types of streams and observing the animals, the different frequencies and the different fields that are being created, the more he's going to be able to zone in and out of his own frequency.
But he was interested in studying QHHT. Should he do that, as a kind of introduction to him connecting to himself?
Yes, he could do this. He could help a lot of people as well through this. There is no specific job that is needed for him. It is just to be what is going to make him happy. And he is more happy when he is working things of like frequency, where he can speak the language that he wants to speak. He doesn't have to restrict himself in what he is doing. To work with people makes him happy, because when he opens up these channels and the frequencies can flow through, this brings a deep joy. So for him to create this option to study, he would still be traveling, and this would be a good option for him.
I suppose it would be more astral traveling if he's doing QHHT with people.
Yes, but it is more that he will help them to be able to travel accordingly to where they are going, which will help them on such a deeper level. It is more to say that a lot of beings choose to do these types of things. However, each one still has their own ability, and how could you use your ability best to help serve others? Because by serving others, one is truly serving the self. It is always about the oneness. It is always about the whole and everything that is moving. It is to always connect it back to the heart. So when he is doing these sessions for these people, he's thinking, how can I help them connect best back to themselves? And then his frequency will start to set and help them to guide them through these ways.
Any other spiritual modalities he should be, focusing on?
It is more about awareness. It is more about by traveling around and bringing these people together and talking to them. It is the best to describe as a reminder, to be a reminder, to sit. It is more to say that instead of giving a physical session, have a room full of people and open the discussion and allow them to do it in the waking rather than in, as we could say, a state of mind.
Yes, well, he was saying in Taiwan where he lives, there's this QHHT, for instance, the YouTube channel that I have, that kind of thing is not translated in Chinese, and there's no discussion around these kinds of things. So maybe he can do that in his own country with his own language, open up that discussion.
Yes, and it is just to create that chain effect, because even where he is specifically, he is helping that grid and moving those frequencies there. He does travel a lot, but he does come back there. So the more that he opens this conversation, the more happier he's going to be, because then it is also, as we could say, a cause and effect. The more he talks about it, the more he awakens all the light workers to work together and see each other and realize that it is not just them alone in their daily lives, that they could start networking and moving together and start having these conversations. It is more to say that when one starts to unlock these higher frequencies and one is more alone and doesn't have others to share with, one tends to think that they are crazy. This is one of the biggest things for the light workers at this time. All of them know that they need to be at this level, but all of them are in a sense not shy, but in denial of, maybe this is not the truth, who am I? I cannot do this. And the more they network and more they chat with each other in the sense of each one bringing forth their purpose, then they will see, oh, but in our group, you and you all connect to this one purpose, but from different sides to help this move. And then they would become healers. Then the next group would start doing something else. And it is more for him to create this space where they can, as we could say, sift through the fluff and then connect back to their frequencies.
And why is it that he's in Taipei, in Taiwan? Why does he always go back there?
Because this is where he is home based. This is where he is his frequency, his electromagnetic frequency. This is where he is based. Each one of them are based on certain spots. But it is only when, as we could say, something happens and whoever is the closest will travel to there to cover that spot. Another would cover another spot, but then they move back. This is how they are always moving.
How many of those traveling light workers are there?
We do not want to give this number per se, but we would give you more of an idea into this. But if we must give you a number of them currently on this planet, we would give you, it is in between this 500,000 and 600,000.
Okay. So quite substantial then.
Yes, but each one is specifically placed.
Yes.
And as we say, it is not that all is online at the same time, because there are different levels into the shift. So it is more to give it the same concept of the planet and different electromagnetic belts within the planet and the frequencies. So it is more like a group above a group above a group above a group. So each one is covering a different section of it. But the section that he is involved in is to allow that frequency to flow through.
Yes. Okay, is there anything else about his purpose, his gifts, his work?
There's a lot that we could give to him. He is a very, as we could say, curious being. He is never wanting to stop learning and stop diving into things. But it is for him to more dive into the physical history of things, history of his surroundings. The more that he is deeper into this, because this does give him curiosity, then he will unlock more things within himself, because of the concepts of the things and the historical factors is concepts that can be used within his field grid. It is almost to say that when he starts digging into these things, he gains a perspective, and then he can use that perspective in a way of moving his frequency.
Yes. Okay, and he was diagnosed with Parkinson's on his 42nd birthday. What is the purpose of this? What is the root cause, and how can he heal or release it?
The thing is, this is just because his frequency is not flowing through him. And the more that he is consciously aware when he's at these places, the frequency starts flowing through. It is almost to say the same as the electromagnetic field. If one has got interferences, let us use the vessel as an example, because this is the most digestible. If the vessel has electromagnetic field of the heart, it needs to send out through the cells, coming out the tissue to create the frequency and giving all instruction. But when one has an area where the cells are not accessible, or there are heavy metals in the body, the frequency gets pulled towards those metals and they don't tend to move out and flow. And that is the same with him. Because they are not moving everywhere inside of his body, they are being projected through the spiral cord, which is now moving through the nerves.
So you're saying there's heavy metals in his joints or wherever the kind of shaking is occurring?
Yes.
Where does the heavy metals come from?
This comes from, as we could say, any daily environments. This is something that is always there. It is more or less to say that there is always something causing an effect. It is for him to be very aware of not only what he puts into his body, but what he is surrounded by.
Can you maybe give him some practical tips as to how he might release that and not, have it reoccur in the future?
Yes, there is, as we could say, things on this planet which do pull out of the body. It is to just get into the right source base of things. It is more to give him, as we could say, more earthly things. It is the most simplest form. If anything like this volcanic ash, or as one could call charcoal, these types of things draw out. It is to bathe himself in these things and allow it to get pulled out of his body. One could be putting different herbs and different things. He could be making, as we could say, a tea for himself, and not a tea to drink or indigest. It is a tea bath, putting in different elements together that is going to draw this out, and bathing himself and submerging and allowing it to move out of the body.
What other kinds of herbs should he put in that kind of tea to bath in?
The one is thyme could work quite well, and this of rosemary, which works quite good. But the one of cedarwood is the best. This one can come in and actually draw straight out of the areas by replacing as well. This one is very good at balancing internal effects inside of the body.
Did you say cedarwood?
Yes.
Okay, so should he take the leaves, for instance, of the rosemary and the thyme, put that in the bath? Or should he use the essential oils, the drops?
It is not that any one of them is wrong, but the more fresh that it is, the better it would be for him. Because then it is the quicker effect. When one is using the oil, it would take almost, as we could say, a couple of weeks before there starts to be results. But when one has the fresh herb and one is growing itself and one is tending to the plant and giving the plant love, that plant is absorbing the frequency. And when it absorbs the frequency, it's absorbing exactly where in his field he needs the attention. And then when he takes it from love and then does not harm the plant, but connects with the plant and says thank you and breaks off the stem and puts it in the bath, that frequency will take place in that water, giving it more direction. So it is in sense to be more specific. When one houses the energy, when it belongs to one, it is more deeper in love to help one. But it is to say that if he is going to go buy oils at a shop and the way that it was harvested, he only gets a small fraction of the frequency that can help him.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm sure he could get the fresh leaves. Can you maybe just tell him how, how much of each to put in, what the kind of routine would be?
Yes, it is not to overstimulate, but it is to just take. So the best way that we could say is if he takes all the leaves together and everything, to not have it bigger than his two palms. He should be able to hold it in both hands, because then this is the right amount that will absorb into the body. And it is to not overdo it. So it is to say that to introduce it into his body, he needs to make sure that he is doing it at the right sequence of first starting with, as we could say, the detoxification process and then the rehabilitation process. The detoxification would be more of this charcoal based ones, to take this bath. Let us give an example of a Monday to do this bath. And then by the Friday to do the herbs and get the tea together and the remedy. So it is to take out and put back, take out, put back, and slowly start doing this over a period of time. But it is also to say that the sun gazing in the first 45 minutes of the sunrise is a very good one for him to sit and do more breathing and absorb in that light. And when he does this, he can place the intention on the light of saying, go straight to these areas and help heal them, and just keep absorbing that through. This could also help.
So you're saying the herbs are detoxing, is kind of drawing out these metals, and then the charcoal is giving back the kind of sustenance?
No, it is the other way around. It is more the charcoal is drawing out and removing and purifying from the body,
yes.
And the herbs are giving back. They just give back to those cells to be able to use that to heal and repair.
And is it the activated charcoal, that powder?
Yes.
And then he should just put a teaspoon or something of that, or how much?
It is to say that he doesn't want to overdo it, but he doesn't want to underdo it as well. It is to say if we could give him in a milliliters to do more 20 to 30 of the charcoal.
And that's twice a week. I mean, one day charcoal, one day herbs.
Yes, but to give a good enough gap. So we would say to give at least a 3-day rest between the two would be better, because it is to take out, then it is to activate the cells within that time so that they know that they need to start cleaning, because they will be detoxifying for those 3 days. And then on the 3rd day, he can then take the bath of the tea to absorb back, to feed and heal and repair. And then it takes a few days again to set in, and then he does the next one. So he could alternate like this for, as we could say, a month. And then after that, give his body the rest and start absorbing in the light in the mornings to just keep on the process.
Why will that light help him?
Because the light is the most ultimate frequency. That is the one that can get sent directly to anywhere. The optical nerve is the most active nerve of the body, because it is the one that absorbs the light into the body and allowing one to be able to pick up frequencies in physical and in energetical. It is such a wonderful tool. So by absorbing that first light, it is, as we could say, the most pure frequency. The most pure frequency of the day, stimulating through all of nature inside of this whole entire reality, waking everything up. And if he places that intention on that energy that is waking up everything in his body, it is directly going through the eyes, in towards the glands in the brain, in down the spinal cord, through all the nerves, and moving into his body.
Is there anything else he could do for this, for the Parkinson's, to reduce it?
There are many things that one could do. It is just what perception would one want. And these are the easiest perceptions for him. Because he has such a strong belief and such a strong willpower, it is that once he is sitting, and if he truly connects to that frequency of the light and absorbs it, he will almost instantly start feeling the changes. But if there is doubts in between that, then he has to gradually start with different things. It is more to say a more higher oxygen base can help the body as well, which is quite good. But it is to be more inside of these minerals like zinc. The zinc deficiency inside of the vessels can also cause that these tremors start taking place, because the light cannot stimulate to the frequency. So that is extra things that he could start taking. But it is to say that it must become in a routine. It is not something that is built overnight. So what happens is when one is breaking it away, one is keep resetting and resetting and resetting. It could take up to 3, 6 or 9 months, depending on him. Sometimes it could be 4 to 8 weeks. It is on which synchronicity is his perspective at the time that he is doing it.
And how should he take the zinc in?
It is more to try to find a powder form, the most purest powder form of it, and take, as we could say, half a teaspoon inside of water and then drink that once a week.
Yes. Anything else he should be ingesting?
No, because he is traveling quite a lot. It is just more to keep a routine that could fit him best, because this is something that he could be doing from anywhere. He could be looking at the sun from anywhere. He could be taking this powder of the zinc from anywhere because he could take it with him to travel. So these are the most sufficient for him because of the movement.
Yes. Okay, and is there any way we could help him to heal through Natasha today?
Yes, we are sending frequencies already through him, but what we will do is we would tell him to bend his arms and lift them up now, and open up his palms and face them to the roof, and take a breath with us in and out, and feel his hands start to move the frequency, as her hands are getting very hot now and are vibrating. And now we are moving this down his wrists, into the elbows, into the shoulders, and it is coming up out of the face. And just for him to sit like this for a minute. His hands are going to be shaking at this point, but this is a good release of energy and frequency. Now it is for him to just keep with the routine of this helping, because it is, the frequency is no longer stagnant, but it is to say that this is the muscle memory inside of his tissue, of his vessel. This is why the routine is best to help phase that out, so that this frequency can take place.
How will that practice help his Parkinson's?
Because now by doing this, he is resetting the muscle frequency and memory inside of the tissue. He is basically redirecting to these cells to tell them that the energy is no longer stagnant, that it is moving smoothly, which is not causing the cells to rupture and shake and cause these problems. It is more bringing a balance back to them, where they now are floating and they are moving through. He can also stimulate the frequency by rubbing lightly, only tugging the skin of the body, not to go too deep, but it is to just create this tickle above the skin, so that the cells can start moving and feeling the movement. And he can do this also on a daily basis. It is a very high form of self-love and frequency. It is just to move his own energy from his hands over the area as well. And it is just about his belief structure and pattern of how quick he's going to feel the changes.
But sorry, go ahead.
No, but this is something that he will feel almost, as we could say, quite quickly, because he already knows that he could move it, and he has been trying before, but because he has not been doing it in a way where he's putting in less effort. It is more to say, the more he's focused on it and trying to do it and trying to do a specific outcome, he is restricting. But once he is more just knowing and trusting and allowing it to move, then it will start moving through him.
But these practices seem to be based on the top half of the body. What about the bottom half?
It is that the bottom half of the body is moving, but it is quite stagnant, but it can only move out the top. So if he does not clear the top half of the bottom half of the body cannot move up and then create the flow. It is to understand that if we had to put him like this, the top half of the body is here and the bottom is at the bottom here, and he is standing like this. The gravitational pull and electromagnetic field of the planet is keeping the energy into the bottom half of the body, but the release takes place on the top half. So if one wants to move stagnicity here, one needs to open it up here. And once opens this flow, this can start moving, and it will start to move like a figure of 8. So it is best to focus on the top half to bring and lift out, so that the stagnicity that is being pulled down can flow back up again, almost like the circulation of the body.
Yes. Okay, are there any emotional reasons why you might have manifested this?
Yes, it is more, as we could say, of a stress factor, of a more, We do not want to place this term into this concept at this point, just because of the level of understanding and moving in the information. But it is more of this type of environment of one feeling that one is not reaching its full potential, this stagnicity, this there needs to be more, there needs to be a change, there needs to be a different outcome. And this is restricting on the inner side of the body as well, causing this to stay in, instead of trusting that one is already there, one is already flowing, one is already doing one's purpose. But because of this longing to keep moving the energy or being somewhere else, it is almost to say that it is manifesting on the inside as well, that one wants to be somewhere else. But instead of that frequency traveling through the body to an area, now it wants to jump and it is stalled in the in-between.
Okay, so how could he trust better than in knowing that he's exactly where he needs to be?
It is just to build that trust within himself. This is what we were saying in the beginning, is the more that he is focused and more present inside of his now moments, the more he is going to trust. Because it is not a trust of him having to think about it. He's going to feel it. That is it. That is the biggest thing. It is the intuition. It is the ability in the moment to absorb everything. It is this frequency base of there is no doubt. There is no room for doubt. It is almost to say that as well, it is like channeling. The first thing that comes through is the truth. Once one only starts to dissect that and try to think about different outcomes, one starts to then distort what the original information was. And that is where the secondary problem becomes. And the same with right now on the planet. This is the problem with the planet, the way that the electromagnetic frequency is coming out. And this is why it synchronizes in different ways, in different aspects, because these are the things that need to be healed. This is why there are different light workers and beings coming in to help with this movement and this chain. And this is why everything that is in his life that is bouncing back towards him is actually guidelines into where he needs to be focusing. It is showing him that he is too outside of it, where he needs to be in the middle of it, not completely in and not completely out, but in the middle and then picking up on the fields.
Okay, I know that was very important for him. Is there anything else about Parkinson's, or should we continue to the rest of the questions?
We can continue to the rest of the questions, because this is something that can be self-healed, and we have already given him a good guideline, and it is for him to just understand that this is his own energy that is struggling to move, and the more he makes peace with that, the more he would heal himself.
Could things like yoga and, dance, that kind of movement, would that also help with that stagnicity?
Of course, any circulation, any type of frequency movement would definitely assist to this.
Yes.
There's multiple things that he could do, but that should become, as we could say, his spirituality, his way of thinking, is to create a routine for himself where every day he's going to do specific things in a specific way to breathe in the movement, move the body around, and synchronize his frequency into his vessel.
Yes, even Tai Chi could work.
Yes, there are multiple ones. There's no specific one. It is just for him to pick one.
Okay. So he wants to know, are there any past events that have special meaning to his current circumstances? What led him to where he is now? Is there a parallel life? He wants to know, did he do wrong or right? Are there any choices he should rather have made to live a more joyful life? And has everything he desires, he says he has everything that he desires, but he still isn't completely content.
Yes, but what we would say is we do not even want to answer this question if we would be specific, because this is, as we could say, a distractional frequency. He is exactly where he needs to be and how he needs to be there. He is doing work of such importance. He has done so much already, but to dwell his mind on those types of concepts is stealing his frequency from what he is doing now and pushing it to those realities. As we could say, you humans do not understand the power that you hold and the things that you do. That is why it's important of what you speak over yourself, what you think, where do you place yourself. There is no wrong, there is no right. There is just now. There is in this moment and this frequency of how one is moving. And it is for him to come to terms with that concept. He is exactly where he needs to be. He always has been. He has been traveling and moving to where he needs to be without conscious thought. Could he imagine the potentials of what he could be doing, what he could be receiving, what he could be understanding when he's doing it from conscious thought? This is the type of things he needs to ponder his mind on instead of wondering about parallels. Parallels are there for a reason, because they are doing the things that one is not needing to do in one's life at this moment.
I suppose the question is then, how could he live a more joyful life, so that he could be more content?
It is to say, to be more content with just who he is and accept himself. This is, as we could say, the most laughable concept because this is what is told to all. You are all here just to exist. You have been created with the thoughts, the frequencies, the situations, the lifestyle. Everything has been created to create this type of, if we could give it to you, of a vessel frequency base. You are you for a specific reason. We have created him with the way that he thinks, the way that he speaks, the way that he sits, the way that he eats, the way that he travels for a specific reason. Because each thing is a puzzle piece that falls into place that creates an extension of the frequencies that he is stemming from. So instead of looking for ways to better himself, to become more content with the fact that he is the best version of himself and see that version and sit and go, all right, instead of wondering what I could do to become more joyous, it is to more sit still and breathe and say, show me the opportunities around me that is giving me that joyous frequency. And therefore he's going to see them and start synchronizing into them. That is the power. It is so simple, but yet the conditioning of the structure of this planet has led ones to believe that they cannot do it. But they can. This is why we have sent in the waves. This is why we have created these stages for this jump. It is why we have created different time shifts from different generations coming in and understanding and releasing frequencies on this planet in order to be able to move on to the one main thing. One is always connected. One's heart is always beating. One is always there. But this construct was created to allow one to believe that they are not there. They are not worthy. They need to keep finding something outside of them to be happy. It has dragged one's perspective so outside of oneself that one has never came back into it. It is more to say that just to be content in that moment and allow the moment to show you where to move in the next moment, and then once you get that synchronicity, the joy will just start flowing.
Yes, beautiful. Okay, and who is in his soul group and why? What do they need to learn from each other?
This is, as we could say, not a thing for him to understand at this time. He first needs to master the shifting around, because his soul group is a slight extension outside of himself. Like we said, they never truly meet each other. There are other groups that he's interacting with the light workers and helping them in their groups and the things that they need to do. But the ones who specifically have energy streams the most similar to his and the structures of his, they do not meet each other because they have already mastered these abilities. They have to help each other from afar. Eventually, they can start telepathically connecting to each other and moving frequencies to and from, and know of each other and where the other is. He could start picking that up, but never could two be side by side because of the frequency it pushes like magnets. They would never be able to touch.
Is there anyone in his immediate environment that's in his soul group?
As we say, it is to create the definition of his soul group. The soul group is of the souls where he has stemmed from, or which in the frequencies that he can connect with. But from the group of the dimensional realm of where he is from for his purpose on the planet, that type of soul group, they will never meet. But it does not mean that the people that are in his life do not have a significant role. He is there surrounded by specific people to help them achieve their abilities as light workers, whether they are conscious of it or not. Each one has a role to play. But it is more that when he comes into this frequency, he would be able to see it. It is to explain to him that when he is running from this perspective from the middle, it is almost as he's going to walk past people and he could see things in their fields and see where they need help with movement. And he is already doing this with some around him, but not to that full extent, because he cannot do it from sitting in a different position. It is almost as if he needs to sit more within himself. This is the most accurate that we can describe.
And how many times has he reincarnated, especially on Earth?
He has come many of times. This is not his first, but it is to say that there are different aspects that he came into. He came into more different types of things instead of people.
Can you give him a significant one?
Yes, we could say that he has a very deep connection with the Amazon jungle, as he has been there before in many lives, but as trees. He stems from a tree, which is quite good, creating and sending signals. The trees are the masters of the forest. They have to send off frequencies. We could give it more in a term of pheromones and different things. And they instruct, like the internal clock of the human vessel, they instruct the forest of when certain creatures come out and movements and laying of frequencies take place. He has been there in that presence and helping with that frequency because of that ecosystem that has thrived there and has moved around the planet, changing and evolving, has called seeding, which has been quite well.
And what has he learned from that experience?
He learned how to be a part of the movement. But it is almost to say that this is significant now to him because he can draw then from that again. So it is more to say that if he would want to draw that into his waking life, he could go now and stand and talk with the trees, go and put his hands on them and just allow them to give him the memories and show him the flow and the connection. All trees are connected all the time. They create a network within the planet. A tree on this side could talk to a tree on the other side of the world. It is a continuous network moving, but the trees always stand still. They are never in each other's vicinity. And this is almost the same as that electromagnetic field. However, the benefit of being a human and not a tree this time is that one can travel.
So trees are kind of like the mushrooms, those connected networks.
Yes, but they move through and they just give instruction and synchronicity to the life under them. It is almost to give them the same kind of concept of hormones. It is to say that hormones get sent out, but the trees are the glands. They are the ones that are sending out the hormones to the different areas.
Any other significant incarnation?
There are many, but it is always as to say, it is such a beautiful thing when one can absorb these things themselves. And there are other things that we could bring forth to his attention, especially to, as we can say, the different portal structures that have opened now on the planet. He has also been involved with the mountains. He has been mountain ranges and mountain passes. There is the 3 pyramid structure here in this place close to you, where these portal synchronicities are opening up only today, where all 3 are linking. And it is to say more that these mountain passes had to light up different frequencies. And it is that you and Natasha have traveled to these areas, bringing in that field here, so now it can stream across as well.
So you're saying Natasha and I had to go to separate mountains to come back to open that network for those pyramids, those crystalline pyramids to open?
Yes, but it is for that his frequency is stemmed through that, and you two had to first connect with him before so that you could go there and connect to those areas because of the frequency that you hold. And by you two bringing it back and being here today and allowing his energy to move in, it is almost to say it is a trio, the triangle. There is 3 of you. Now the 3 different structures are connecting and opening up. And just to say that, as we say, he is more mountain-like structure because this is one thing that he has been many of times and in many different, as we could say, synchronicities in his lives. That's why he's also drawn to these types of things.
Yes. Can you maybe talk about why we had to move this session from the taxi strikes and all of that?
Yes, but it is almost to say that a clearing had to take place and a shift had to take place inside of the frequency. And now that these 3 areas are open, it is creating this vortex of a different frequency to step in. It is to create more of the next phase, as what one could say. So let us think of it in a way that could make more sense. Is these 3 pyramids right here in this area of Cape Town that we can say, and these different mountain ranges where you guys went stem into different sections going up into this country. And when it does this, it is opening that band worth of frequency that a newer and a deeper dimension can start coming in, which is one of a higher vibration. So now not only is it a fifth dimensional space in the physical that can take place on this planet, but the seventh and the eighth dimension energetically can now start streaming through the planet. It was more as an activation for this electromagnetic frequency.
Okay, so that we could channel better or higher information now.
Yes, but it is more that this is starting to open up now to more light workers and more beings who are at the level of the next section of understanding. So it is to say that, let us take the eighth dimension. It is still such a harsh dimension to be able to come specifically from the outside energetically. That is why it comes through channeling and through certain beings of animals can hold that light frequency as well, but not for long periods of time. Where now these activations of these mountain ranges are opening up a frequency where those dimensions can start to hover closer to the planet without causing dysfunctional split because of the higher vibration.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I sent Lawrence photos of my holiday in the Drakensberg and he said, oh, that looks like 5D to me. And then we talked about the taxi strike and he was like, that's 3D and the mountains are 5D.
Yes, but because it just has to create the space. It is almost to say that one has to create a shift to bring in the other, and it was to create that split out because this is where the realities are changing. That is, for example, for all of the light workers to be able to say, is one conforming to this space or is one conforming to this one? It is more that the light workers connect with nature and work with nature environments. It is to say, to create this movement to work with the planet, because the more you work with the planet, the higher your vibration is, because one stems from the planet. This vessel stems from the planet. And the more that one integrates into all life and looks after everything, the higher the vibration, the higher the frequency, the more possible. But when one is living in a dense type of lifestyle where one is only focused on oneself and one's day-to-day and one's job and focusing just on what one's going to eat, one starts suffering inside of that frequency. So it is just to create that perceptual shift and opening up that frequency. This is why more light workers and more frequency-based beings who are here to do purpose are being drawn towards mountain ranges, towards all of the water, towards all of, as we could say, these nature pieces, because this is where they are getting the stream. And now by unlocking this, through these mountain ranges, it is moving through to other mountain ranges and other places around the earth, allowing these spots to awaken. Think of it as a docking station, as a charging station, as a place where one would go and one's frequency can be reset and then pushed forward.
So you're saying all the mountains are connected as well, somehow?
They are connected because they are the earth. They are all connected everywhere. There is no spot on the planet where the ground is not with each other. Even in the ocean at the bottom, there is different pieces of groundwork and structures and how they move. There's always this network. However, through these ones now is where we could say these higher dimensional streams, and they have opened on other spots, but not to this degree of frequency. It will take time in, as we could say, your reality, where they start taking more and more and more until they fully set into that. So it is almost more to say that in these ones that are projecting out this light, if one would go to them, one would almost instantly connect to these higher frequencies. Where if one is on the other side of the world and one is sitting in the mountains, one would first have to almost meditate into the state of the mountain, feel the mountain's frequency, then move with it to that mountain and then start receiving the information.
Yes. Okay, anything else about how many times he's reincarnated on Earth?
No, there's not more that we would give at this time, as we feel there is other things of more importance.
May I quickly go to the bathroom?
Yes, we may take a short recess.
Okay, does Natasha also need to go?
Yes.
Okay.